Sir, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening.
Just state.
My name is Adam Schwartzbaum. I'm representing my family, Bonnie and Stephen Schwartzbaum. We have a home at 1940 Northeast 124th Street, which is on the block. The end of the block of the White House Inn is going to be located. Our parents have been living at this location for over 30 years. This is where we grew up. We have major issues with this, and I'd like to just address a couple of the things that were in the staff report, which we think are not supported. First of all, there was a reason in 2015 why this wasn't designated BZ zoning. The areas to the south were, but this was not. This was looked at recently by the City Commission, and they made a determination that this area was not proper for this type of zoning. So this was just recently looked at. And we need to start from that position tonight, that the City Commission has looked at this and already determined recently that this is not appropriate zoning for this location. There are a lot of assumptions that are in this staff report, a lot of beliefs. One of those beliefs is that multimodal transportation is going to be used here to fix the traffic problems. I've looked at this report. I haven't seen a single detail in this report about what the developer intends to do to deal with the traffic issues that is going to be caused by this development. So, you know, the beliefs are not enough here. We want its details. They're not in here. Another belief that's in this is that these are going to cost maybe $3,000 a month to rent, but then it also says in the next breath in the staff report, we really don't know what these things are going to cost. They're saying this is going to attract young people, professionals. I'm a young professional. I'm not renting a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, which is what this is intended to be. It seems like, again, we're hearing that there's going to be a
15
covenant.
seconds.
There's no covenants that's been shown to us in the staff report. I'm sure many other things are going to be addressed tonight. The fact is there's just not enough details in this report to get the approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
Yes.
Please hold your applause because this will be a long night. Go ahead, sir.
Richard Yakabacci, 13250 Keystone Terrace, and also a business owner, 1478 Northeast 130th Street. Mr. Chair and distinguished members, thank you. First of all, thank you for your time. You're a recommendation committee. I served on the P&Z and Surfside for 6 years, so I think I know a little bit what you're up against. Making a recommendation to the City Council. With that recommendation, whichever way this goes, I would hope that you would recommend that a minimum of $3 million would be put into a separate fund that would be able to upgrade the entrance and the gatehouse to the at that entry level. It was something to consider, and perhaps something you could get from the developer, whatever way this moves forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next.
May it please the Commission. Douglas Hindmarsh, my address is protected by statute. Please don't kill the messenger.
And Douglas, I didn't recognize you.
Good. I'm incognito.
Well, now you've blown that, so you may proceed.
As a predicate, I've heard about studies. I'm reminded of Samuel Clemens. You know him as Mark Twain. He said, there are liars and damn liars, and there are statisticians. That's what I'm hearing tonight. So what I ask myself, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, is whether or not the rezoning of the White House Inn from R4, which is a buffer zone, to BZ constitutes an inordinate burden on the residents of the R1 Keystone Point. The answer is yes. My discussion would be the Florida Burt J. Harris Act of 1995, that supersedes the shadow studies that I've just heard here. That's the Eden Rock versus Fontainebleau 1954. Sam Cohen lost that case against Novak. That's not an issue. The Florida Burt J. Harris Act of 1995 states when the private property rights are inordinately burdened without amounting to a taking of an inverse condemnation under the 5th and the 14th Amendment, there's an important state interest at bar. The intent of Burt Harris is to equal a separate and distinct cause of action. Changing this zoning from R4 buffer to BZ constitutes an inordinate burden on aesthetics.
You've
Angler
got 10
Albert,
seconds.
Armando, and a third house I don't know directly across the canal are going to be directly affected by 100+ feet. All residents of Keystone ingressing and egressing The gates are also affected.
All right, Mr. Highmarsh, your time is up. I apologize, but no, you cannot. This is not the Congress. You do not have time to yield, sir.
Please deny this request.
Thank you, sir. Next. Sorry, but this is not the Congress. You cannot yield your time. State your name and address for the record.
I'm a little intimidated by all the
Of course,
information.
but it's okay.
My
So
name
are we.
is-
Go ahead.
My name is still Tracy Haldemith. I live at 2090 Northeast 124th Street. I've lived there for 28 years. Prior to that, I grew up in Sans Souci. The reason Sans Souci has that zoning is because there's other ways to get in and out beside that one North Bay Shore entrance. If this building is built, it'll be impossible to get out on 123rd Street, which is where I have to come in and out to get to work every day. And it's already, the traffic on that street is ridiculous. I live literally 500 feet, but because of the canal between my house and my office, it's a 1 mile. It takes me up to 20 minutes to get from my house to my office, which is 1 street away. One of the gentlemen was saying that there's no new building. No, but there's a hell of a lot of old houses being bought and completely renovated in this city, including mine. After 25 years, we sunk a hell of a lot of money into building a brand new home for ourselves on that street. And we've been subjected to the light and the garbage from LA Fitness, and to be subjected to this on the opposite side is going to be incredibly offensive to our canal and all of the people that live on it. The difference between this and the Sans Souci thing, this is spot zoning. That wasn't. And there's a reason that we don't want anything higher than 3 stories, because we have to look at it for the rest of our lives, and our properties will be disintegrated financially by this or any other structure, because I don't believe this is going up anyway. I believe it's going to be sold. So if your owner spent $3 million on the property, I wish I could afford to buy it from him and build something that's palatable for the rest of the people who have to spend their lives looking at it. I implore you to vote against this and not listen to whomever's telling you this delusion of grandeur like we heard with LA Fitness.
All right, thank you. Your time is up. Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Hector Rivera, 1274 North Bayshore Drive. I'm a resident and a business owner at 1801 Northeast 123rd Street as well. This project is completely out of pace with the community. It will be a disastrous. I heard the staff saying that they like to eliminate, the curve, widen the road, and so on and so forth. And that's where our kids run their bicycles. That's where a lot of faithful people walk up the bridge towards the temple. It's already bad. That corner is already bad, traffic-wise. It's already, on the rush hour, there's a lot of traffic. We not need to have any more units, converging into that lane, let alone diminish the space in which people have to walk or bike on those paths. It will be a dangerous thing for us to do that. In addition to that, the traffic, just the traffic alone should be enough for you guys to put your hands, up and say insanity and deny this project. But if that's not enough, well, here's the other thing, impact on schools. Our schools are already burdened. Families come into that building, 52 of them. Well, guess what? That's a lot of kids going to school. The traffic, the kids, the problems, it's crazy. There's no space for that. Seriously.
Thank you, sir. All right, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen. Robert Lorenzo. My address is also protected, Florida Statutes 119, but I live in the Keystone area. I grew up in Keystone. I remember riding my bicycle to Sans Souci tennis courts when I was a little kid. I lived over 40 years in North Miami, and I love North Miami. A lot of what the gentlemen here have said before me is totally true. Thank Mr. LeBrun for your comments earlier. However, he stated that the traffic is going to be coming from the east, from Broad Causeway. However, most people, a high majority, are going to be coming eastbound on 123rd. So just think about it, just 10 cars trying to turn left into that complex won't fit, especially across that intersection there at North Bay Shore Drive. Second, in order, anybody has ever traveled sometime either in the mornings, but between 7 and 9:30, or actually 7 and 10 a.m., or from 4 to 7 o'clock in the evening, it takes an inordinate amount of time to try to come eastbound on 123rd Street by Biscayne Boulevard. The traffic is out of control. It's abhorrent. I vehemently, I'm against this project. Also, what the other gentleman said about the schools are pretty full as it is. That project will cause an inordinate amount of crowding in the schools. Another thing too, in order to avoid that traffic, most of those residents are going to be cutting through Keystone Point. I like to consider myself a professional too, and I have 2 small children. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And one thing I would hate to see is a child to get hit by a car because someone's trying to cut through Keystone to get to Biscayne Boulevard on 130th Street or Biscayne and 126th Street. It's a tragedy that's waiting to happen. If anybody here has visited the Walgreens parking lot on a weekend, it's virtually impossible to find a parking space because that's how crowded it is. Gentlemen, this is a bad idea. Please turn it down.
Thank you. Next.
My name is David Call. I live at 11930 North Bayshore Drive, Majorca Towers. What I'm really concerned about is that, let's take it at 52 cars plus a half, so there's 75 cars anyways. And what we're going to do is we're going to teach people how to cut through the back way to Sans Souci Boulevard. And when they get to Sans Souci Boulevard, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go the wrong way, because I see that continually. Cars go the wrong, where it says one way, cars go the wrong way. So we're going to teach people how to cut through the neighborhoods. And I'm talking about 75 more cars on my street alone. Secondly, there is a school there. I don't know if the traffic report said this or not. There's a school there on 121st Street. There's a school. And both sides of the school, on both streets, there's a school zone. So, you know, you're going to have people flying through the school zone? Come on. This doesn't make any sense at all. It's not the proper... By the way, the sun goes from June to December. It doesn't... The sun doesn't stop. So when we do a reflection study, it should go from June to December. That's how long the sun traverses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next speaker, your name and address, please.
Holly Cohen, 12500 North Bayshore Drive. I live in Keystone Point. I have a business on Biscayne, 127th Street. This whole staff report is full of items that have not been verified, have not been looked at, have not been dealt with in regards to the reality of the situation. We are being asked to change the zoning, not because they're going to build it, but because they can sell it for a higher price, and that is all there is to it. So we are being sold a basket of goods that doesn't exist. And if they say there's 52, there's going to be 101 different units there, because we have no control over the next purchaser. And we are going to be put into a position that we are going to change a zoning that was a buffer zone, which we had a comprehensive plan established, worked with for years, and they finally came out with a substantial, good, existing plan, and that was a buffer zone to residential, single-family residential homes and townhomes. That was there for a purpose. It was not a mistake, and they keep acting as if it should be in this easy zone. No, it wasn't. It wasn't supposed to be in it. It was not going to be in it, and they had already made that decision. So to go back and reevaluate it because someone bought a piece of property and now wants to sell it for more money is the wrong reason. This area needs low-income housing, they're not going to be low-income housing. When was the last time you saw east of Biscayne Boulevard low-income housing on the water? I mean, it's just not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next speaker. State your name and address, please.
Yes, hi, Alita Rosenfeld. I'm in Keystone Point, nowhere near this development, but I, of course, agree with everyone who has spoken before against this development. It doesn't make sense. I'm all in favor of intelligent design, intelligent planning. This is the opposite of that for traffic, for a lot of reasons that have been stated before, but don't take my word for it. I only have another minute, probably.
Minute
We
and a
have
half.
Packed standing room audience of people from the community of North Miami. If I may, anybody from the city of North Miami, please raise your hand in the audience. Thank you. Keep your hands up if you would like to see the zoning changed. Okay, you will notice your constituents, the people you're going to listen to, not just me. Nobody in this packed audience, I don't know how many people this holds, 150 plus. There are people in the hallways, people that had to leave because it got late to them. Nobody seems to support this development for all of the reasons before. So without being redundant, please consider the people that are supporting you, that have put you in these seats and that want intelligent design. Do not support this development. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, we've got a lot of people to get through tonight. State your name and address, sir.
Gustavo Lang, 2080 Keystone Boulevard. I want to address something that really hasn't been mentioned here today by anybody, and that's construction traffic. It was mentioned today that the construction could take a couple of years. I work for an appliance manufacturer where we go into new construction to do service, and I can tell you, and if you've been along the beach, Bal Harbor, Sunny Isles, the traffic is horrendous when there's a construction site. They usually take up at least one lane consistently. We only have 2 lanes going west. Take up one of them, and then what happens? The traffic would be snarled for months and months and months at a time. Every time they come in with construction equipment, every time they come in with materials, every time they come in with cement trucks, they take up a lane. And that is just traffic that is beyond comprehension. It will not work. It'll be a disaster. Also, I did work in real estate for a time, and I agree with the lady that was here at the podium before me. It seems to me that the only thing they want is to rezone this, to increase the value in order to turn around and sell it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Terry Dellerson. I've lived on Bayview Lane for 37 years. I moved to Keystone because of the lifestyle it offers and the low density that exists now. Adding this, or changing this rather, will alter that. It's really more suitable, this location, for townhouses. Like in Quayside, they have luxury townhouses, and that would be suitable if it had to be a residential project.
All right, thank you, sir. State your name and address, please. No applause. We'll never get done tonight.
My name is Bruce Gibson, 12640 North Bayshore Drive in Keystone Point. Relative to the comments from, I believe, the attorney at the beginning of this meeting, I've been in commercial real estate, including development, for 30 years, and so would consider myself an expert in such matters, including billions of dollars in retail development at Simon Property Group, the shopping mall developer. Many of you may recall several years ago when what is now the 100-foot tall LA Fitness building had zoning that allowed 4 stories to be built. You could debate the intelligence behind zoning based on number of stories rather than height, but at the time, the residents of Keystone Point and surrounding areas had no question as to the intent of the zoning regulation, which was clearly to limit the overall height so as to act as a buffer zone outside of a large neighborhood of single-family homes. You may also recall the City Council and Planning Commission very thoroughly and thoughtfully reviewed the zoning code along 123rd Street and Biscayne Boulevard. It was an extensive review that involved a lot of community input. One of the results was to remove the number of stories wording and replace it with feet. In the case of the White House Inn and most other parcels along 123rd, it was at 35 feet. When the current owner purchased the property, the zoning was 35 feet. They knew this. The previous work that went into this was well documented, and again, they knew it. given the listing price of the subject property, it's clear they're assuming they'll be granted this zoning change, and with it, with the sale, will be handed a very nice gift of several $1 million, compliments of the city. Now, I'm not speaking for, nor do I represent a local developer that recently built a spec home across the canal to the north of the subject, but I would have to assume that when he purchased the property, he was relying on a 35-foot zoning for the White House Inn. And I would also assume that it's going to substantially reduce that value.
Your time is up. I'm sorry, but we have many people we need here tonight.
Okay, it does amount to a taking of property for all of Keystone, because all of the homes in Keystone would be.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Karen DeLeon, 1935 South Hibiscus Drive. A few quotes tonight, if I may, please, from the applicant. We are car dealers, but we believe from our experience R4 doesn't work. Housing element most important. There is a deficiency. We want to bring something of a positive impact. From Mr. LeBron, the applicant, why the applicant came here tonight. The applicant came here tonight because they overpaid for a piece of property. That's just the reality. And now they're looking to make profit off of that property. And there's going to be a negative impact, and that's obvious from everybody who's here in the room. Now, I don't have the experience to go what you guys do and go in the law, the city and the state law, but I do know how to do numbers. So if our whole thing is that you're looking for market options for more affordable or semi-affordable or some house that somebody could actually afford to buy, so it's $17 million, 52 units. Before you've even done anything other than closed, that's $327,000 per unit just to have bought the piece of property. Okay, you guys said economic impact of $7 million in restaurants, etc. You're going to tell me everybody in those 52 units is going to spend $135,000 in restaurants locally? Well, I'll tell you one thing. They're going to spend $27,000 just in taxes alone. And these are supposed to be young professionals, and we're supposed to be increasing our market options. Please, street parking, there ain't any. So where those 500 people are going to park, where anybody's going to park, the site study they showed us showed parking that was 250 spaces, where they had to stack the cars. This doesn't make sense, you guys. You're getting used. Please don't embarrass us.
All right, please, we'll never get through this.
Norman Brooks, 13225 Biscayne Island Terrace. I've lived there for 43 years. I was a practicing dentist on 125th Street for 30 years. She almost stole my thunder, but I want to just do the simple math. This property was bought for $7.8 million, a matter of public record. If they put 52 units, that would be $150,000 just in land costs. If they were going to build 52 units at 1,500 square foot a unit, and let's say they could do it for $200 a unit, that would be $300,000. So we're at $450,000 just in cost before any profit motive is put into it. You do the math, you do the numbers. How is that helping indigent people in the city of North Miami? Thank you.
All right, state your name and address for the record.
Grover Rawlings, 12444 North Bayshore Drive, 30-year resident of Keystone Point. I live about 200 meters from this proposed monstrosity. Well, I've seen over the time that I've lived here that we're gradually losing control of our neighborhood. The cut-through traffic is almost out of sight at this time. I knew I was moving to a high-traffic area when I bought the house. I've been passed by a blue Porsche Carrera on Keystone Boulevard. I've been passed on North Bayshore Drive, as short as it is, by a Dodge, trying to do Carroll Keys' 25-mile speed limit. Sudsy laundry trucks have it as a main thoroughfare to get to North Miami Beach. I can only see this getting worse when this thing opens up, if it ever does. I want to leave on the record the statement that I just pray and hope that the City Commission of North Miami can resist the overwhelming urge to stack up taxpayers in this, like I say, proposed monstrosity. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, please, if you applaud every time, we'll be here till the cows come home.
Bill
Yes.
Cutler, 12535 Palm Road, and my concerns are the following. First of all, you got a flyer out there by a broker listing this property with 100+ units. That didn't happen by accident. There was something that the ownership, the listing agent, they got together. This is the plan. So where this 52 units is coming from and what they're selling us right now might not very well be true at all. But the bottom line is, On eastbound traffic in the morning, we all know at 123rd Street and Biscayne Boulevard, that whole intersection's backed up. And if people are coming out of that property and they're headed east in the morning, they're going to be cutting through Keystone Point. If they're going to be going north, and probably take off on 135th Street to get out to I-95. This is going to increase the traffic flow through our community drastically. If in fact there's 100 units that do go in there, and so you can have 200 cars pulling out, going in the morning and in the evenings, getting in there, that the intersection of 123rd Street is just going to be crazy. It is already crazy. And the comment earlier about the Walgreens, there is no parking. If you go in the wrong time to go to Walgreens in that whole parking lot, the traffic coming eastbound is backed up. 4 or 5 cars are queued up, 5 or 6 cars trying to get into that parking lot, and it's full. It's full now. And you got another apartment complex going in where the Dodge dealership used to be. So you add that to what's going on, it's just going to be crazy as far as the traffic congestion. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. State your name and address.
Hi, my name is Brian Gale. I live at 13200 Biscayne Island Terrace. I'm going to try and make this very short and sweet and just talk logic for a second. This project is too big for this site. Hold your applause, please. I'm in commercial real estate and have been so for the last 26 years. I am pro-development, okay? It's what I do for a living. It's how I make money. But not every site is the right site for development. And listen, nobody wants to look at the White House anymore. We do, I do personally, would like to see something built on that, but not this building of this size. It's way too big. You know, you have some of the most expensive homes in all of the city that are right behind this project. I mean, we want to protect our expensive homes from putting huge developments, you know, next to them. And, you know, forget the traffic, because obviously I think we've all discussed the traffic. The traffic is obviously a concern, but there's more to it than just that. Unfortunately for the developer, they pay too much for the land. And I looked at this land, and when I saw the transaction, I couldn't believe it. I said, you know, based on the zoning and based on what is going to be approved by the city, how could you make any money on that site? It was worth $4 million. So they overpaid, and now they're trying to get their money out by building something, asking you to allow them to build something that shouldn't be there. It is a buffer zone. It was recently looked at and was decided to downzone it. And it's, you know, again, if they want to build, a gentleman said townhomes, 3-story townhomes with a nice pool deck on top, could be very, very nice for that area. But a monstrosity like this is not going to be good for the area. Thank you very much.
All right, please, next.
Good evening. My name is Armando Romero. I'm here with my wife, Dr. Patricia Romero, and we live in 12385 Keystone Island Drive, just right behind the project. We've been in Keystone for over 14 years. I have my business. I'm the owner of Broker Nation Real Estate at 1801 123rd Street. And we purchased the property directly behind the White House, I believe it was in February. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars on that property because we feel the property needed it. We feel the entrance of Keystone is important. We want to renovate the property, and we're against this project. Obviously, a 10-story building affects me probably more than anybody, because you're going to have people in their balcony looking at my we have 4 children, and we have a pool, and I'm not happy about a big, tall building behind my house. But in addition to that, this is about changing monies, okay? It's about how much money they want to make and how much money they're going to take from me, from Albert, and from the residents that are going to be affected. It's an exchange. Are you willing to take money from your residents or from a developer that wants to profit? That's the bottom line. They don't want to build anything. They're not here to build anything. They're here, I'm in the real estate business, and it's all about going as vertical as you can go, the more money the property's worth, okay? Tell them to build something else that's more suitable to our residents, more suitable to the neighborhood, safer for our kids, and traffic will be a nightmare. But forget the traffic. It's about money. And if you're here to make a decision so they can pocket more millions in their pocket, then you're doing the wrong thing for the residents. Thank you.
All right, next.
Albert Mendez, 2141 Hibiscus Circle. I'm the gentleman that spoke about that lives directly behind or owns the property. Actually, I do not live there. I am a developer, a residential developer, by the way. I'm the one that's directly affected, just like Armando, just right behind the building right now. I do want to say one thing real quick. I do take offense to the comment that they said that there's only 5 new permits pulled in the city a year. I had 5 myself last year. So I know I'm not the only one building
So
the city.
you had the whole market to yourself.
So I must have had the whole
I see.
market. So, and I think I've built 18 new homes in Keystone in the past few years. So I think we need to, there's a lot of things being said. At the end of the day, this is a conceptual drawing for a zoning change, which will basically make the property more valuable. And my recommendation is, look, I want this property developed. It's great for me. It's great for what I do. I develop in Keystone. I've done 18 houses in there. But the reality is, this is not what this is. This is just basically a zoning change. A zoning change which basically makes the property valuable. Now, at the end of the day, my recommendation or my suggestion is the staff should be looking at not a zoning change, but an actual zoning change with a site plan review with what you're going to provide on that property. Not just a conceptual drawing of what may, or what their professionals, their consultants think that would work. Because they don't think it works. They're car dealers. They're zoning attorneys. They hire professionals that say that we think this is the best fit for that property. Well, great. Let's see whoever's going to buy this property, whoever's going to develop it, should be the one submitting a site plan review, a zoning change, what they're providing. Not an idea to change the zoning to then later on, well, we want to do 50, we want to do 100. Because as a residential developer, I've been doing this for 25 years, everyone's mentioned the same comment, but as a person that does this, we all know that 52 units does not work.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you again for your time.
All right, yes, sir. State your name and record.
Hello, my name is Walter Luki, and I live in Keystone the past 40 years. A former business restaurant owner, and I live in Exora Road 12922, and I see a lot of traffic coming down, which also in the end of on the end of my street we have a tot lot. Okay, sometimes when I see the car, go zooming like they go to Indianapolis, and we have small children going over there. Secondly, I have a suggestion for the city of North Miami to buy the property of the White Inn and make a nice, beautiful park like they did on the other side. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. State your name and address for the
My name's
record.
Gary Hildmuth, 2019 Northeast 124th Street, North Miami. I don't want to be redundant, so I'm not going to talk about anything about what anybody else has said, but what perplexes me about this whole development is that it's quite clear that all the residents of North Miami or Keystone Point are definitely against this. We all have friends in Bell Harbor, Bay Harbor. People have been talking all the time of being car dealers. We patronize their facility. We're the demographic that goes and buys Cadillacs. And it's a lose-lose for them, and I'm really talking to them. If this ever gets passed and we realize that we've just been, really been thrown under the bucket, but the next time anybody here or anybody next time in our neighborhoods wants to buy a Cadillac, they're not going to Cadillac in Bay Harbor. So I really don't even understand why they would want to come and try and do something in a neighborhood where they make their living, and they're quite happy that they've made their living for many, many years, and come and present something that clearly is against the general feeling of the people that live in the neighborhood. So basically that's all I want to say, and it's upsetting to know that a neighborhood business, which purports to be a neighborhood business, is coming and really not doing the neighborly thing. Thank you.
All right, sir, state your name and
Robert
address.
Fleming.
Please, we'll never get done tonight. Just
Yeah.
hold the applause.
Mr. Chair, before he starts, I'd like to just inform the commission and the people assembled that any discussion of acquisition of the property for a park is entirely inappropriate. There's case law going back to 1950s in the state of Florida that says that it's an improper motive to deny rezoning with the intent to purchase the property for a park. So please do not complicate matters more than they are by bringing that up for discussion. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Robert Fleming, 2205 Arch Creek Drive in Keystone Point. I've been a resident there for over 20 years. Nobody's even brought this up. We talked about 52 residents, 1.5 cars, that's 75 cars. No one's even brought up if you're even going to have a visitor, where are they going to park? There's no on-street parking. What are you going to do, park across the street in the park? 10 places over there. Also, I want to bring up something here.
Can we get the camera to zone in on that, please?
Okay, this is our light to get into Keystone Point. If you're going to pass here, all these cars are backing up trying to go westbound. How are these cars going to get past this light if there's no light to get into here? How are they going to cut across all the cars? Do you think somebody from Miami Beach is going to stop? All these cars are going to stop to let cars in, 75, it's a minimum of 75 cars coming in. That's just trying to get home. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. If any of you, I'm sure, have tried to cross anywhere across even Biscayne where there's not a red light for you to actually get across, what are the chances of somebody's going to stop and give you 2-3 lanes to cross to get in? It's just not going to happen. So I please urge you guys, as doing the best for our community, as we'll do a summary here. I don't believe I've heard anybody that's positive that wants to get this done. Please take that in consideration, that you're doing the right thing and supporting all your community by denying this project. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. Carol Ellis Cutler, resident, 12535 Palm Road, 5 houses up the canal from the White House Inn. I've been in commercial real estate since 1991. I've been a resident of Keystone since 1993. Raised 2 boys there. I am against the proposed change. Appropriate development to enhance the value of the land and collect real estate taxes are important, but not to the deficit of the real estate taxes that the residents' values are already contributing to the city. The access now to the new Publix to cross from Keystone on through Biscayne Boulevard without a traffic light is very challenging. The entrance into White House Inn that does not have a traffic light, a smither of the intersection, is not yet proposed on how that will occur. So if you look at the parking study and the traffic, we suggest that those that are going to submit to your board need to do detailed plan before they come and ask for it. So I encourage, if you would, please suggest to the commission that as proposed today, this is not an appropriate zoning change. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Maureen Brody Horowitz, 2390 Bayview Lane. I've resided in North Miami for 51 years. I strongly object to this highly controversial project. It is spot zoning at its worst. Probably you could call it melanoma zoning. The closest high-rise to this property is the Majorca Towers, which is to the south, which is about, I clocked it today, 1/4 of a mile away before you get to a high-rise. This is totally inappropriate for the area. It is not in conformity with the area, and it is not compatible. It'll be a benefit to the owner, detrimental to the supporting community around it, and it violates many tenets of the master plan. Density is supposed to be redirected, increased density, to the NRO area. Density is supposed to be redirected from the coastal zone and flooded areas. It's in our comp plan. So this, and housing element, we have more than 4,000 units coming online at Solomia. This is a city that has no shortage of potential residential units. It makes no sense to pile on units in this very sensitive flood zone, hurricane evacuation property on a major state road for evacuation from Miami Beach. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alex Firth. I live at 12405 Keystone Island Drive. So the shadow just almost touches my house. Not to be repetitive, I'm just going to say 2 things of the supposed benefits. Low-income housing, I believe they mentioned a tax number of $1.7 million. If you divide that by 52 units, that comes out to about, and at 2%, that's $1.5 million value of each of these low-income housing units they mentioned. And the other thing is, of whatever tax revenue were to be raised by this, how much would be offset by the loss in property values around it that over time would redundant lower taxes to the city itself. Thank you.
William Welsh, President Sanssouci Homeowners Organization. 1180 Northeast 118 Road. I represent about 250 families. We've had 6 homes either completed or still under construction the last year and a half. There's several points. I went to the town hall meeting and I asked directly, if this project is so profitable, are you going to develop it? No, we're not developers. So first off, they have whatever's drawn here is worthless. It's going to end up in the city dump. Secondly, well, along with that, this is only a zoning change for 107 units. Face the reality. Traffic study, the traffic. This is a health and safety issue because what they're showing you on their plan, they're going to have to cut into the edge of the bridge and move a 48-inch water line that travels from North Miami to Bay Harbor, Bell Harbor, Surfside, Indian Creek, and parts. You're shaking your head. Go look at the water line, the water main over there. They're going to have to cut into it. Do you think any of those communities are going to want to not have water for a day, 2 days, 6 days, a week? How are they going to do that? Thirdly, there is no way you can put 2, 3, 4 cars making a left turn in there, even cutting that island down, because there's not enough room in realistic terms. A car is, what, 18 feet? 4 cars? You don't have the room between the edge of the bridge to turn into that. So you're going to have cars backing up eastbound and westbound lanes on a constant basis. Third, they say they're doing 52 units. No, it's a zoning for 107. Thank you very much. Personally, I think my little speech is like whistling Dixie in the wind. It's not going to do anything for your judgment.
Thank you, sir. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Blumen. I live at 1865 Northeast 117th Road. I've been a resident of North Miami since 1992 and have also had my occupation here in healthcare. I'm looking at this rendering, which is very pretty, and it's just that I have a few questions with this rendering. If indeed it was a rendering that is for a real building that is being intended to be built, as one of the other gentlemen has said, we have 52 units and only 78 spaces, and yet the apartments have 2 and 3 bedrooms in them. I, for one, if I was a young urban professional, would not be moving into a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment that only gave me 1.5 spaces and 6 spaces total for guests. I mean, as you're young, I remember being young once upon a time, 40 years ago, and we had parties, and I would have 6, 10, 8 cars parked in front of my home or apartment. Where do you put the visitors? On 123rd Street or across the street or in a neighbor's yard or across the bridge. So that to me is an issue. The parking, I don't believe this building is real. I think it's just the concept. And the other thing is that I'm looking at this parking garage and it's at 0 feet of elevation of sea level. Has anybody heard of sea level rise? We're expected to have a sea level rise at the minimum 1 to 4 feet over the next 50 to 60 years. And that actually, a Yale study just recently said it's incorrect. It should be doubled. So we're going to have a building underwater. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please say no.
Jeff Cable, 2311 Bayview Lane, North Miami, Florida. I'm also a real estate broker in the city and have our business here in the city. What I have seen in development in the Keystone Point area in the last 3 to 5 years is exactly what a city wants. I know one of the reasons why this development is coming is, well, we're going to give you increased taxes in the city. But if you look at what development is going on in Keystone right now, look at the permits that are being pulled for new construction homes, for additions. We have seen tax bases on a single family home at Keystone Point go from $5,000 last year to $28,000 this year because of economic redevelopment. These are the kind of things you want to continue. You should not be putting a 10-story building next to this kind of economic development that's going on right now in the city. Don't squash a good thing that's happening. It's not the right thing to do. I ask you to deny this application. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, based on the emptiness of the aisle, that would seem to conclude the public testimony. Therefore, the public hearing is closed. At this time, the Planning Commission will be in recess for 10 minutes.